The knock came at 9:02 a.m. Two city inspectors stood on my porch, clipboards in hand, official windbreakers zipped up to their necks. One of them adjusted his glasses, scanning the number on my door as if double-checking I was the woman they were here to ruin. Rachel Foster? Yes. We're here for a scheduled inspection. Home business compliance and food safety. I forced a smile. Of course. Come in. They followed me through the narrow hallway into my kitchen, the heart of my bakery. Stainless steel surfaces gleamed, labeled containers were perfectly arranged, the oven timer clicked softly as a tray of cinnamon loaves cooled on the rack. I had scrubbed every tile the night before until it nearly sparkled under the light. The taller inspector walked slowly around the counters, nodding slightly. The other flipped through forms. Business license is valid, he mumbled. Permit for home kitchen, filed 6 months ago. Inspections clean until now. Complaints filed by. He hesitated. Then looked up. Neighbor at 2401 Maple? I didn't flinch. Yes, Karen. She's had concerns. He grunted. That's one way to put it. They continued checking shelves, the fridge, the water heater labels, everything meticulous and by the book. But as they moved toward the door, I stepped aside and pointed to the staircase. If you're concerned about neighborhood safety, I said lightly, you may want to take a quick look from the upstairs window. They exchanged a glance, then followed me up. From the second-floor landing, I drew the curtain back. Across the street, wires ran from a second-story socket to the detached garage. A crude ventilation duct snaked from a broken window. A blinking vacancy sign flickered behind stained curtains. Interesting, one of them said, narrowing his eyes. Very, said the other. Then they turned, toward Karen's house. And just like that, everything changed. People think running a bakery from your home is about flour and frosting. It's not. It's about permits, zoning codes, fire extinguishers, hair nets, thermometer logs, and keeping everything 2 inches off the floor. It's about printing your license twice because someone always asks to see it again. It's about taking something you love, something that once gave you joy on quiet Sunday mornings, and turning it into a lifeline. For me, it was survival. I started Foster's Flour and Fire from my Portland kitchen 18 months after my divorce. I had no savings left, a 12-year-old daughter, and a kitchen that still smelled like the life I used to have. But I had skill. I had recipes. And I had enough grit to fill 100 pie crusts. At first, it was just birthday cakes for neighbors. Then wedding cupcakes for a friend's niece. Then a local real estate agent asked if I could make branded macarons for her open houses. I printed a label, made a website, registered my business, and got certified with the Oregon Department of Agriculture. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. And it worked. Little by little, order by order, I built something solid. I didn't need a storefront, I had a double oven, a food-safe prep station, and a front porch that made for great pickup photos in the golden hour. Most of my neighbors were kind. Supportive, even. They waved when I wheeled bags of flour from the car or when my daughter helped hang seasonal decorations on the front steps. All except one. Karen. She lived 2 houses down, alone with her teenage son. Early 50s, always in a pressed vest and tennis shoes, the kind of woman who knew everyone's garbage schedule and reminded you about yours whether you asked or not. At first, we were cordial. She even complimented a batch of banana bread I left on my fence during a bake sale fundraiser. But that changed the day she showed up at my door with a smirk and a request. I heard you do birthday cakes, she said. My son's turning 13 next Saturday. We're doing a superhero theme. Chocolate, maybe vanilla. Lots of blue. That sounds fun, I said. You can fill out an order form online, and I'll have it ready by Friday afternoon. Her smile dropped a degree. Oh, no, I meant, as a favor. You know, neighbor to neighbor. I hesitated. I'd love to help, but I do this full-time now. It's how I support myself and my daughter. I can give you a discount if that helps. Her lips tightened. It's just a cake. And from that moment, something shifted. The next week, a notice appeared on my mailbox: residential areas are for residents, not businesses. Then another: your driveway looks like a parking lot. I stayed quiet, focused on my work. But the notes turned to emails. The emails turned into city complaints. First to zoning. Then to the health department. Then to code enforcement. Each one listed concerns about food safety, noise complaints, and unauthorized commercial activity. All anonymous. But I knew the handwriting. I knew the tone. Karen didn't just want a cake. She wanted to shut me down. And the city? They were listening. The first complaint from the city arrived in a plain white envelope. Inside, a standard zoning compliance notice with a calm but threatening tone. According to the letter, my property had been flagged for a site visit due to possible violations regarding unauthorized commercial activity. I read the sentence twice. My stomach sank. I had triple-checked the home business regulations when I started. I wasn't doing walk-in service. I wasn't running a restaurant. I baked to order, by appointment only, and I followed every guideline down to the glove type I wore when packaging. Still, there it was. A site visit. Scheduled for the following Tuesday. I tried to tell myself it was routine. That it would pass. That the inspector would walk in, see my permits on the fridge, and walk right back out. But 2 days later, the second letter came. This one from the health department. Then another, from fire and life safety. 3 inspections. Same day. Same hour. That wasn't routine. That was coordinated. And I knew exactly who coordinated it. Karen hadn't just complained, she'd weaponized the system. Found the right words, the right departments, and made enough noise that the city couldn't ignore it. All because I refused to give her a free birthday cake. I sat at my kitchen table that night, fingers tight around a mug of lukewarm tea, wondering how quickly a business could unravel. I'd built this life one cookie tray at a time. One invoice, one delivery, one 5-star review. There was no backup plan. No second income. Just me, my daughter, and a double oven that hadn't stopped working since I turned it on. I wanted to scream. But screaming doesn't stop city inspections. So I started preparing. I pulled every document I had: my food handler certification, my business license, my Oregon Department of Agriculture approval. I printed fresh copies of my last 3 health inspections, each marked pass in green ink. I laminated them. I deep cleaned every appliance. I replaced the rubber trim on the fridge door just in case. I replaced the thermometer in my fridge even though the old one still worked. I wasn't going to give them a reason. Not a smudge. Not a single out-of-place label. But even as I scrubbed and organized and reorganized, something gnawed at the edge of my thoughts. What if it didn't matter? What if Karen didn't need to be right? What if all she needed was doubt? What if they shut me down because it was easier? The Friday before the inspections, I stood on my porch watering my rosemary bush when I noticed something across the street. Karen's garage door was open. A large piece of drywall leaned against the doorframe. 2 men in paint-streaked jeans carried a twin mattress through the side yard. I frowned. I'd seen construction activity over there for weeks, but I'd assumed it was home improvement stuff. Now it looked like something more. Later that afternoon, I caught a glimpse of the inside: finished drywall, a compact kitchen setup, what looked like a makeshift loft platform built over where the garage door had been. Something clicked. That wasn't remodeling. That was conversion. Unpermitted, by the look of it. Suddenly, so many things made sense: the strange wiring running out from her house across the fence line, the clunky air conditioning unit poking out of a side window where there had never been one, the Amazon packages delivered to a name I didn't recognize. She wasn't just doing home repairs. Karen was turning her detached garage into an illegal apartment, and she didn't want attention. And what better way to keep eyes off her property than to turn eyes onto mine? Deflect. Distract. Discredit. That night, I logged onto the city's public building permit portal. No permits filed for her address. No inspections requested. No authorization for structural work, electrical updates, or secondary dwelling use. I didn't call anyone. Not yet. But I took screenshots. Downloaded property maps. Took time-stamped photos from my upstairs window. And when I heard a drill whine at 11 p.m. that night, I just kept typing. Karen had tried to use the system to destroy my business. But the truth? She'd just given me a reason to know hers better than she ever expected. The night before the inspections, I stood at my kitchen window with a mug of coffee gone cold and watched Karen's back porch light flicker. She didn't know I was watching. She probably thought I was up late, stress baking. And in a way, I was. There were 3 trays of blueberry scones cooling on the rack behind me, each one shaped perfectly, wrapped in parchment, ready for delivery the next day. I couldn't sleep. I kept going over every checklist I'd made. Refrigerator temps. Floor clearance. Labeling. Hand-washing signage. I knew I was clean, cleaner than most commercial kitchens. But the anxiety clawed at the edge of my chest like an open flame. I kept thinking, what if they still find something? What if it's not about compliance, but about appearances? About which neighbor makes more calls? What if all Karen had to do was lie loudly enough? That was when I made my decision. I wasn't going to hope they'd be fair. I was going to make it impossible for them not to be. I printed everything, twice. Put it in a navy binder with color-coded tabs and a summary sheet. I laminated my licenses and taped them directly to the refrigerator door. I took pictures of every cleaned appliance, logged every temperature check, every sanitation cycle. I even labeled my spice jars. And then, quietly, I prepared the other file. The one about Karen. I added the photos, electrical wires draped through the backyard, the missing permit records, the screenshot of her short-term rental ad that had been taken down but was still cached online. I highlighted the building code lines about egress windows, secondary dwelling units, and garage conversions. I didn't plan to show it. Not unless I had to. But I'd lived through a divorce. I knew what it felt like to have everything on the line. And I wasn't going to let someone like Karen take this from me because she was bored, bitter, or embarrassed. She wanted to play power games with the city? Fine. But I was the one who baked from recipes, and followed every instruction to the letter. And when the morning came, I'd be ready. For her. For them. For anyone who thought I was just the nice baker with a clean kitchen and no fight. Because kindness isn't weakness. And silence doesn't mean surrender. The inspectors arrived right on time. 2 city-issued SUVs rolled up to the curb at exactly 9 a.m. sharp. 1 man and 1 woman stepped out, clipboards in hand, wearing those navy municipal jackets and the faint, professional frown of people who were used to being lied to. I met them on the porch, already holding the binder. "Rachel Foster," I said, offering a handshake. "I've got everything ready for you." They looked surprised. I could tell. Maybe they expected protest, confusion, excuses. Instead, I opened the front door and led them into the kitchen. It wasn't just clean. It was sparkling. Countertops bleached and gleaming. Utensils sanitized, labeled, and stored according to regulation. Temperature logs posted in clear view. The oven thermometer blinking a perfect 350. I even had fresh vinyl gloves stacked in an organizer beside the prep table. "This is where I do all my baking," I said calmly. "Orders are pre-arranged, pick-up only, no walk-in service. I'm fully certified through the Oregon Department of Agriculture. My food handler's license is posted here, along with my business permit and zoning clearance." The female inspector flipped through my paperwork, nodding as she cross-checked the binder against her list. The male inspector ran his hand along the lower counter edge and checked under the sink. Everything looks very thorough, he muttered. It usually is, I replied. They asked a few standard questions about ventilation, packaging, ingredient sourcing. I answered each one clearly. Professionally. I didn't overshare. I didn't let emotion creep in. Not even when they checked my refrigerator and I saw the male inspector glance at his partner with something close to approval. They were done in 20 minutes. Well, the woman said, closing her clipboard. This is one of the smoothest home inspections we've had in a while. I smiled and led them back to the front door. But just as they reached for the handle, I hesitated. There's one more thing, I said. They turned. I didn't want to bring this up, but since the complaints were based on neighborhood safety, I thought you might want to be aware of a situation across the street. They followed my gaze through the living room window. Karen's detached garage stood behind her house, painted to match the siding, but a closer look told a different story. The old roll-up garage door had been replaced with a faux wall, painted over, but uneven. A tangle of orange extension cords snaked from her back porch, across the grass, and into a hole drilled through the siding. A small window AC unit wheezed in one corner. The driveway showed signs of frequent parking, despite the official street address showing no additional dwelling unit. I've noticed a lot of late-night construction, I said quietly. New people coming and going. I don't know if they're tenants, but the lights stay on all night, and I've never seen any city permit notices posted. I could have said more. But I didn't have to. The inspectors stepped back from the door. Would you mind if we took a look from upstairs? The woman asked. Of course, I said. I led them up to the small guest room at the rear of the house. From the window, you could see it all, the wires, the duct-taped insulation, the fact that Karen had clearly converted the space into a private unit, likely a short-term rental. I said nothing. Just stood beside them, arms crossed, letting the view speak for itself. The male inspector took out his phone. Snapped a few photos. Then turned to me. Thank you, Ms. Foster. We appreciate your cooperation. That was it. They left without another word. 30 minutes later, I heard tires crunching gravel in Karen's driveway. I peeked out the blinds just in time to see the inspectors crossing her lawn, clipboard raised, knocking firmly on her front door. Karen answered in a robe, expression startled, then confused, then tight. I didn't see what was said. I didn't need to. The next day, I received a letter from the city. Your business has passed all inspections and remains in full compliance. Thank you for maintaining a model operation. The same day, Karen received 4 separate citations. Unpermitted construction. Illegal dwelling unit. Unsafe electrical wiring. Lack of secondary egress. She was given 30 days to dismantle the garage conversion or face escalating fines. And just like that, the story she tried to write about me collapsed under the weight of her own secrets. By the end of the week, Karen's garage was silent. No construction. No new faces coming and going. No late-night hammering echoing across the yards. The tangled extension cords had been pulled back. The blinking vacancy sign disappeared. And her face? She barely left the house. I didn't celebrate. I didn't strut. I didn't post about it on the neighborhood forum. I just kept baking, like I always had. Cinnamon pull-aparts, blueberry lavender scones, cardamom shortbread. Orders doubled the next week. Then tripled. Someone must have told someone else what happened, because soon I was getting calls from people outside my usual zone. Are you the baker that passed the inspection with flying colors? I guess word travels fast when someone tries to ruin you and fails. The local food blog ran a small feature called Baking Through Bureaucracy. One woman's cottage kitchen survives the red tape. My inbox flooded with support. Customers sent gift cards, flowers, and notes thanking me for holding the line for small businesses. Meanwhile, Karen had to list her violations publicly. It was required by the city for zoning enforcement. Bright orange notices were taped to her front gate. Unpermitted dwelling under order to cease occupancy. The kind of sign you can't unsee. One morning, I was boxing a dozen lemon-glazed donuts when the bell above my front door jingled. I turned, and there she was. Karen. Hair pulled back tightly, lips pursed, hands clenched around a folded piece of paper. We locked eyes. She cleared her throat. I'd like to place an order. My eyebrows rose before I could stop them. Oh? It's my son's birthday next weekend, she muttered. He wants the chocolate cake with raspberry layers. The one you did for the Martins last spring. I looked down at the order sheet she handed me. 2 tiers. Fondant details. Rush delivery. I tapped my pen against the counter. You understand this is a custom cake. That'll require full payment up front. She didn't argue. She just nodded. Face tight. Voice barely audible. Fine. I wrote up the order, printed the invoice, and slid the card reader across the counter. She paid. Took the receipt. Left without another word. And when she walked out, I just stood there for a moment, staring at the door. Not smiling. Not gloating. Just breathing. Because revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's a woman handing back a perfect cake to the person who tried to silence her. And getting paid for it. 6 months later, my calendar was booked solid 3 weeks in advance. What started as a survival plan had become a business with momentum. I hired a part-time assistant, Becca, a college student with pink hair and steady hands, to help with prep and packaging. We reorganized the pantry twice to keep up with volume. I even bought a second convection oven. A used one, but reliable. And that little laminated letter from the city? The one that cleared my inspection? I framed it. Hung it right above the door, beside a photo of my daughter holding a tray of cupcakes from the first order we ever fulfilled. Every time I walked past it, I felt 2 things, pride and peace. I never told anyone in the neighborhood about what really happened. I didn't need to. The orange violations posted on Karen's fence had done all the talking. The city had required her to restore the garage to its original structure, and for a few weeks, the only sound from her yard was the thunk of plywood and the whine of a belt sander. Since then, she's kept her distance. I haven't seen her since the day she picked up her son's birthday cake. Word is, they celebrated it quietly. He liked the frosting. That's enough for me. I think back sometimes to those early mornings when I was scrubbing the grout with trembling hands, wondering if I'd lose everything because one bitter neighbor had an axe to grind. But I didn't. Because I documented everything. Because I followed the rules. Because I chose preparation over panic. And because, when it mattered, I didn't strike back out of rage, I simply opened the window and let the truth be seen. People think the biggest victories come with headlines. Sometimes, they come with a city seal, a clean inspection. And the woman you once tried to destroy. Handing you a slice of your son's birthday cake. And saying, enjoy. Because living well isn't just the best revenge. It's the final word. And that's how I learned that you don't need to fight dirty when you've done everything right. Let them shout. Let them scheme. Just make sure your kitchen's clean, and your receipts are ready. Have you ever had a neighbor try to ruin your peace? Share your story in the comments. Like this one? Follow for more quiet comebacks and true karma. And send this to someone who's ever passed an inspection they weren't supposed to survive.